I'm going to need for you to explain like I'm 5. I seem to ask you that a lot.
Who explains things to me like I'm 5? Because I need it too.
Well, maybe you have somebody at the system board of trustees that's explaining to you like you're 5. So with the ACC and the constant speculation as to what's going to happen to the conference going forward, what's going to happen with North Carolina and NC State, there has been this constant conversation of, well, how does it work? Could North Carolina leave without NC State, vice versa, et cetera? Do they have to be a package deal? And I think the way things have shaken out in places like Texas and in California, I mean, there's not much that the political parties can do if a school wants to go. However, there seems to be, or there's going to be a meeting this week where the system is going to come up with some sort of protocol if a school wants to leave the ACC. What exactly is going on this week?
Yeah, you pretty much described it well and accurately there. So basically, there's a Board of Governors meeting this week in Raleigh, and just to add a layer of, being specific about it.
There's a Board of Trustees and a Board of Governors,
right? So people get confused with this stuff, and it is confusing. Like if you're just sort of casually following this, but universities obviously have their own trustees who are very, they're in charge of university specific matters. UNC, NC State, et cetera, all have a board of trustees. And then there's this higher ruling governing body, if you will, the Board of Governors over the UNC system. And so the Board of Governors is meeting this week, and they've had this idea or proposal, whatever you might call it, on the agenda for a little while. There was some speculation that they might discuss it even last November. But basically, amid all of this speculation about the ACC, about the future of college athletics, about conference affiliation for different schools, if the proposal is approved by the board, which is going to vote on this on Thursday, basically a school in the UNC system would have to present to the Board of Governors a financial plan, if you will, of how that school would be affected by any potential conference realignment move. So say, for instance, if UNC has, down the road, whenever it might be, an offer from the Big Ten or SEC, UNC would have to go to the Board of Governors and have a financial plan of what that move would mean for UNC. And then, the board, if this measure is approved this week, would have the authority to basically vote on that, and maybe veto it, send it back to the school, get clarification. It would make things more complicated for any school trying to move into a different conference. It adds sort of a layer of bureaucracy. You did mention that other states have kind of tried to do this a little bit, but I'm not sure, and I'm trying to research this myself. I'm not sure any state has tried to get in front of a potential realignment move the way North Carolina is doing right now, because California, that was reactive. What happened in Arizona, that was reactive.
Yeah, the history here, quick context is we still think it's 2002 or 2003 when the ACC expanded and Virginia politics got involved, and that's how Virginia Tech wound up in the ACC. Like, whoa. You are not leaving the Hokies behind in this decimated Big East. And that's how the Hokies are now a proud ACC member. When Texas A&M was going to leave for the SEC, there was this big how is the state of Texas going to allow these? Again, didn't matter. Oklahoma State, how? Didn't matter. And then, yes, it eventually got to the dissolution of the Pac-12 and these California schools where Gavin Newsom, the governor, was like, well, I don't know about this. Well, it's too late, buddy. So what are they? This is another thing, too, that I don't think people understand. And even I have a hard time comprehending it. Maybe you have a better handle on this. I don't think people realize how political the school system board of trustees is.
Oh, it is. It is. And, that could be a whole separate segment. And let's like that, that's a big part of why UNC is looking for a permanent chancellor.
Right.
You saw Kevin Guskiewicz leave recently. His final day at UNC was earlier this month. Went up to Michigan State. I think politics and a lot of that stuff played into why Carol Folt left years ago. The controversy over Silent Sam, that became a political lightning rod issue. Some other things. I mean, let's be real here. Like UNC as an institution, Chapel Hill as a town, that area has always had the reputation of being very liberal, like a Berkeley light, if you will, of North Carolina. And you look at who's in charge politically in this state at the moment, who controls the House and the Senate. We have a Democratic governor, but that really doesn't matter a lot in these conversations when it comes to actual implementation of policy, when it comes to some of the pressure, that chancellors find themselves under. And so there is some political.
The governor can tweet, though. We know that.
He can, and he has, and did last night, as everyone saw. But no, it is a messy political situation, and that stuff plays into it. Like it 100% does.
Well, let's sports this conversation up a little bit. Is this a power play by NC State and the Board of Governors to make sure they're not left behind, or which I can't possibly believe?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think it's fair to speculate on that. I think it's fair to wonder. I think if you look at the makeup of the Board of Governors, there's some folks in high positions who are state alums.
Okay.
Randy Ramsey is the chair.
Okay.
Who is Randy Ramsey?
He's an NC State guy. I mean, he's
most people don't know who any of these people are. That's what I'm saying.
Well, what I'm saying is that I would just assume.
Yeah.
To Andrew's point, I would assume politics in this state are from Carolina, UNC. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't make any sense, because we would think our generalization of UNC politics is left and our generalization of state politics is right.
Mm-hmm.
And this governing body itself is probably more towards the right.
And a lot of these folks have been appointed by a Republican-led legislature.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense for me for it to be some sort of UNC cabal.
No,
is what I'm getting.
No,
at.
It doesn't. No. I'm with you on this.
Okay,
I'm totally on board with you on this. In that, like, doomsday scenario, worst case scenario, this becomes this sort of like this really bad circular moment where, okay, everybody approves you. Hypothetically speaking, UNC is going to leave for the Big Ten. Everybody's on board with it, except that when they go to the governing body, they say no, because NC State's going to get screwed. We veto this, and then now you're back to the drawing board. And when bids are going out, I mean, it's entirely possible that schools end up getting screwed in all over the place because of a gridlock that could occur at this level. Am I off base with that, Andrew?
No.
Okay.
I think that's potentially even a likely scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what this does this week, assuming it passes, which it will, I think it does add to the likelihood of NC State and UNC kind of being tied together.
All right.
At some point, I do think, and I don't know if you want to call it a scheme or a ploy on behalf of state. I don't know if I would do that. I do think there's very powerful political folks in North Carolina who believe that it's better for the state to have the ACC remain intact, that people care about this, that it's an important issue that they should be involved in, that it would be bad for North Carolina if you had UNC and NC State in separate conferences. And I think there's an argument that's true.
Andrew Carter, News and Observer. We appreciate the time, man. It'll be interesting to see what happens on Thursday. We'll have to revisit this conversation next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.